And for more, we have Dr. Bong Young-shik from the Yonsei Institute for North Korean Studies joining me in the studio today. Welcome.
Pleased to be here.
So we just heard in the report that the U.S. is continuously calling on North Korea to take concrete measures towards denuclearization. Now, U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo called Pyongyang a threat to Washington, saying that he wants action, not just words. Now, this comes just a day after North Korea's propaganda outlets said that Pyongyang is still willing to completely denuclearize. Do you think Pompeo's remarks come in response to this?
I think so. Secretary Pompeo sounds like Elvis Presley. Elvis Presley sings a song in his movie Viva Las Vegas, a little more action, little less conversation. I think Pompeo cited Elvis Presley to pressure Kim Jong-un regime of North Korea to carry out verifiable and concrete steps toward denuclearization. So basically what Trump administration has discovered in the Hanoi Summit meeting with Chairman Kim Jongun, with no agreement signed by both leaders, is that Kim Jong-un regime is not really ready to take steps for the kind of denuclearization that is satisfactory to the definition rendered by the United States and its allies. So as long as North Korea insists on doing denuclearization that only satisfies its own definition, the United States will not take any proposals made by North Korea.
So some experts say Washington's push for this all-or-nothing approach comes as the six-party talks in the past failed to denuclearize North Korea. How do you view the U.S. stance at the moment?
Well, I think there's a slight mischaracterization to call U.S. approach as all or nothing. And the six-party talks was not really about all or nothing approach, but is multilateral engagement with North Korea for denuclearization of North Korea in the phased manner, with the simultaneous, supply of benefits to North Korea. But six-party talks failed to produce any major breakthrough when it comes to North Korea's denuclearization. So if six-party talks failed, that is not because six-party talks took all or nothing approach, but you can say that six-party talks failed because six-party talks accepted North Korea's proposal for solving the issues by phased manners. So I'd like to call U.S. approach not as all or nothing approach, but all in one, or one go deal. Trump administration is not really interested in taking step by step in response to North Korea gradually giving up its missile programs and nuclear warheads and facilities, because you can't just continuously rely on a series of summit meetings between top leaders to solve issues between North Korea and the United States. And the problem with the step-by-step or phased approach that North Korea prefers is that as long as you not have clear, final destination that is commonly understood and shared by both United States and North Korea, you can't really assess the value of, the temporary measures or partial agreements, because you cannot really evaluate the value of those agreements in the context of the entire trip toward the final goal, which is a final and fully verified denuclearization of North Korea for the United States, and ending 70-year-long hostility since the Korean War and normalizing relations with the United States for North Korea. So what we need is clearly defined and commonly agreed between North Korea and the United States, the roadmap toward this set of goals for both United States and North Korea.
So the two sides did have different definitions of complete denuclearization. Now, North Korean propaganda outlets still say Pyongyang is still committed to complete denuclearization. And following the report, some have suggested that this was an indication that Pyongyang was willing to come back to the negotiating table. But now the variable seems is the U.S. one-go deal. Do you think Pyongyang may make any alterations to its action-by-action or phase-by-phase approach?
We have to wait and see. It is true that North Korea is not really interested in agreeing on that all-in-one approach preferred by the United States. But if push comes to shove, North Koreans may regard change of its approach, their approach to negotiations with the United States. The main variable, of course, must be how much pressure North Korea is feeling under the set of economic sanctions. If North Koreans do not believe that they can continue to live under the pressure of economic sanctions, then it is more likely for the leadership to change its approach to denuclearization from phased matters to one-go deal preferred by the United States. But it's not really set in stone as of now.
Speaking of sanctions, a UN panel of experts released a document on Monday saying that the nuclear ballistic missile programs of North Korea remain intact and the regime continues to defy UN Security Council resolutions through a massive increase in illegal ship-to-ship transfers of petroleum products and coal. Now, what impact do you think this report could have on future negotiations between the two sides?
I think it has a very significant implications to the future negotiations and dialogue between North Korea and the United States, and the role of South Korea as a mediator, because it is not these findings made by the United States government. It is the United Nations Security Council panel of experts. So the findings represent the international view or the consensus among United Nations member countries. So as Secretary Mike Pompeo said that economic sanctions are a reflection of international consensus that North Korea has to abandon its missile programs and nuclear weapons. It is not just a unilateral action taken by the United States. So there is a pressure not just on North Korea to move ahead with its promises of denuclearization in verifiable manner, but pressure is also upon all nations, but especially South Korea, because South Korea has been main mediator between the United States and North Korea that in terms of telling the United States government that North Korean leadership has confirmed its genuine intention for denuclearization. But if North Korea is not carrying out that type of denuclearization steps that are in line with the explanations given by the Moon Jae-in government of South Korea to the United States, then the credibility of South Korean government as an objective mediator or interlocutor between Pyongyang and Washington will be seriously reduced. And the United Nations panel of expert report also cites some South Korean companies involved in illegal importation of North Korean coal, which is in clear violation of the United Nations Security Council resolution on North Korea. So if Moon Jae-in government of South Korea is not going to be able to clearly and persuasively explain these cases, the South Korean government has not been turning a willfully blind eye to illegal actions taken by its national companies in violation of United Nations Security Council resolutions, then Moon Jae-in government's call for relieving economic sanctions on North Korea so that North Korean leadership would precipitate the process of denuclearization will not be accepted in international society.
Now, North Korea had some internal affairs to deal with itself. The regime's parliamentary election was held last weekend, and for the first time in North Korean history, the North Korean leader was not a representative in parliament, which is a major change from the past. Now, why do you think such a decision was made?
Well, we have to wait and see for more concrete evidence to actually prove what the true reason must have been for Mr. Kim Jongun not to put his name on the ballot. But one possible explanation is that since the Supreme People's Assembly is just a rubber stamp organization, because North Korea is not a typical liberal democracy. So being a member of the North Korean parliament was not an important matter for the supreme leader, which is Mr. Kim Jongun. The other point is whether he wants to exempt himself from the responsibility for current difficulties that North Korean people are going through or living with, so that he would just shove the brunt of the blames to the legislative body of the government, at least for a while.
Some have also said it's to portray Pyongyang as a normal state. How do you see this? How do you view this?
Right, that too. Right, separation of power is the main principle for any functioning democratically elected government. So Kim Jong-un might have had this in mind for his decision not to run as a candidate for the Supreme People's Assembly. But as I said, that all these multiple interpretations are possible, so we have to wait and see to verify what must have been the true motivation for Mr. Kim Jong-un.
Yep, so we have no official response from North Korea yet, but is there any figure among the people who were elected as deputies to the 14th Supreme Assembly, People's Assembly, that we should be keeping our eyes on?
Well, when the Supreme People's Assembly election was held in 2014, 55 new members were elected. So there was a clear indication of Mr. Kim Jong-un's preference to shuffle the composition of the government and lead the nation in the direction that he envisioned. This time, similar turnover of members in the North Korean parliament is expected. I would just focus on the new members who must work together with the supreme leadership to overcome the current economic crisis in North Korea. So the important figures would be the members of the parliament who will join the cabinet and will be in charge of addressing the concerns for national economy and setting up new multi-year development plans for the national economy. And one more person I would like to highlight, it must be his sister, Kim Yo-jong, whether she would be assuming a different role or title in the government, regardless or because of her affiliation with the North Korean parliament. Because she's the one who has the utmost trust, and she is also giving the highest loyalty to the leadership in North Korea. And it is true that Kim Jong-un seems to feel the crisis of leadership these days, especially with the collapse of the Hanoi Summit meeting with US President Donald Trump, because he came back home with empty hands, no sanction reliefs. So relieving the current difficulties severely felt by North Korean population is #1 priority for Mr. Kim Jong-un. It is no wonder, it is no coincidence that the leadership and the propaganda arms of the government emphasized the escape from the economic difficulties as top priority. But interestingly, the North Korean official media also emphasized that you cannot expect everything to be solved by the supreme leadership. So it is a change of position by the North Korean government, which used to uphold the infallibility of supreme leadership. So there is a conflicting message coming from the North Korean government. On one hand, there is a message that we will prevail. We will overcome the crisis as long as we will be under this wonderful and miraculous leadership of Mr. Kim Jong-un. On the other hand, North Korean official media changed the tune to try to make it easier for the supreme leadership, that you cannot really expect everything to be solved by the supreme leadership, and the supreme leadership may not be infallible, like the Pope in the Vatican City. So I guess the Kim Jong-un government, after this parliamentary election, has to make a decision with which kind of policy the supreme leadership of North Korea is going to guide the nation in the time of severe economic crisis.
So we'll have to keep an eye on that when the parliamentary session kicks off next month. That's all the time we have for today. Thank you for your insights.
You're welcome.